and you'd be able to plug it in and apply it. Okay. So these are called power reducing because hopefully you notice it's sine squared, cosine squared, and tangent squared. And they reduce down to a power of 1 on the cosines. Okay, so there's no power, no exponent on those cosines. That's why they call them power reducing, because we're going to reduce it to a power of 1. Okay. So basically, I'm just applying whatever the formula is. Whatever is right here is always the u. Okay, we're going to do some that both use the sine and the cosine. There's one that uses the tangent in the homework. It's going to be the same idea. You see the tangent squared, you plop that in for it, and you might have to do a little bit of extra work here, or maybe there's some canceling that goes on. There's literally only 4 homework questions on this tonight. Okay, and we caught one fly. You saw this, and Matthew saw the spark. Okay, all right. We're gonna do the examples in reverse order because example 10 is way easier than example 9. I started with example 9 first period, and that was a mistake. I should have done it in the opposite order. So let's look at 10 and get the hang of this first. So basically, I'm going to apply the formula that I have. So it says that I have cosine squared of 2x. This thing right here is the u. Okay, so can everybody in the chat, I want to make sure we understand this. What is the u in this problem? Put it in the chat. Everybody tell me in the chat, what's the u? I want to hear from everybody. Remember, this part of your grade to help me out during the lesson. I love seeing all the names that are coming up there today. Good job, everybody. Okay, so I am going to take and I'm going to apply this formula right here. So I'm going to say 1 plus cosine 2u over 2. So this is equal to 1 plus cosine of 2u over 2. My u is the 2x. So I plopped my 2x in. Okay. Now, there are like 5 bazillion ways to write a correct answer. There's not. There's 3. Okay. So, and depending upon the test writer, depending upon the system that we do homework out of, you could have a lot of the different choices, a lot of the different ways to write the answer. So I will accept all of these on the test for this. Okay. So 1 plus cosine of 4x over 2. Perfectly good answer, right? All I did was I multiplied the 2 and the 2x. I could separate this and write them as 2 separate fractions. So that's the next thing I'm going to do. So I'm going to say 1/2 plus 1/2 cosine of 4x. All I did was separate it into 2 separate fractions. And I kind of made my 1/2s out in front. Okay. So another perfectly good answer. Okay, I want to see if anybody else sees one more thing I could do with this. Think about this when I do this. What does that mean we could do? What do we see in there? There's something the same in both of them. What do we think? Okay, Matthew's saying there's a 1/2 in there. What could I do with that 1/2? Okay, we're all recognizing the 1/2. Think one of our favorite math F words, right? There we go. Good job, Alondra. A GCF, right? Greatest common factor. We could take that out. So that's another way, especially when we go to next year. Next year in AP Calc, we see that in the multiple choice a lot. They love to pull out that greatest common factor, which isn't calculus, it's algebra, right? So they love that algebra step for some reason. So 1/2, and then I get 1 plus cosine of 4x. So if one answer doesn't work, keep going and mess with it to see what they want with the answer. Okay, I don't remember it, and I don't know if it's consistent in there in WebAssign. I kind of think they do the last one, but it might not be. It might be the second to last one. I doubt it's the first one. Okay, I doubt they leave it as the first one, but I will take all 3 when it comes time for test. Okay, so notice the instructions, and I totally missed the instructions. It said we had to get to a first power of cosine. So that means I needed it to just be cosine. And that's what we got on this one here. It's just cosine to the first. Okay. The next one's a little bit harder because we're going to have to apply this 2 times. Okay. So sometimes you might have to do this more than once. I'm going to start by rewriting sine to the 4th because I don't have sine to the 4th, but I know I've got sine squared. So I'm going to write it as sine squared of x squared. Okay, What's the u this time? So what's the u from the formula this time? Excellent. It's just an x. That's right, just an x. Okay, so we're not super panicked. We're just going to write 2x when we see it. I'm going to take this guy right here, and I'm going to plop it in for the sine squared. So 1 minus 2 cosine of 2x over 2. All right, hopefully you remember that when we see something squared, especially that's a binomial, that means write it twice, right? So 1 minus cosine 2x over 2 times 1 minus cosine 2x over 2. So write it twice. Write it twice. All right, we multiply fractions. We multiply across the top, across the bottom. So let's just talk about the denominator. What should my denominator be when we multiply across the bottom? Tell me in the chat, what's my denominator? Ellie's waving at me. All right, I tried to join her class. I was listening to the middle school class last period, and I'm really glad. I discovered that I'm really glad I don't teach middle school. So that was my big revelation of the day. All right, now look at that numerator, all right? We have a binomial times a binomial. What process do we need to apply here, everybody? So what process do I need to apply to multiply that out? Ah, good job, everybody, for a Monday. Nice work. We've got to FOIL that out. So 1 times 1 is 1. All right, I'm going to do this in a different color. 1 times negative cosine 2x would be negative cosine 2x. But check it out. Purple will be fine. Negative cosine x times 1 would be another one of these. So I actually, when I combine it together, have negative 2 cosine x. So I'm kind of shortcutting it. I'm doing that addition of the O and the I in my head. All right. And then we've got a negative cosine 2x times a negative cosine 2x would be positive cosine squared 2x. The squared goes on the trig, not on the 2x. So it should stay 2x, not 4x squared. Okay. All right. So I want to point out our instructions again. Okay. Our instructions say first power of cosine. Unfortunately, what we created was not a first power of cosine. We got part of it into first power of cosine. We got rid of the sine, right? That was part of it. So I've got to get that into first power of cosine. I'm going to have to do a little bit more work. I am going to take, and I'm going to rewrite it a slightly different way as I am applying that more work. I'm going to pull the 4 out in front like a 1/4. Okay. And this is just one of those things. You start seeing the patterns in math. And you know, oh, it'd probably be a good idea to make that a 1/4 instead of dividing by 4. Makes our fraction less complicated. All right. The next thing I'm looking at is I'm looking at this guy here because I've got to do power reducing on that. In that, what I highlighted in yellow, what's the U? Everybody tell me the U. What's the U in there? Oh, yeah, it's 2x. Nice work. You guys, I think I'm teaching it better than I did first period. First period was terrible. So we'll post the 6th period lesson, but that is absolutely 100% the U, okay? So U is the 2x. All right, so I'm going to go back to my formula. And again, I don't have these memorized, you guys. I would have totally forgotten them because it's been like 2 years since I taught them because I didn't teach them last year. So I'm expecting you to use the formulas, okay? So 1 plus 2 cosine u over 2. So 1 plus cosine 2u. I think I said it wrong. Cosine 2u. Cosine 2, my u is 2x all over 2. That's an almost okay answer. We would like to probably see the 2 times 2x put together. I'm going to rewrite it a couple of times. So we're going to write it and get like 3 different answers. Actually, we're going to probably rewrite it and maybe get maybe 2 answers because there's some combining like terms we can do here. So I've got 1/4, 1 minus 2 cosine 2x. I'm going to do two things with this at the same time. I'm going to split it into two separate fractions with the same denominator of 2. And then I'm also going to multiply the 2 and the 2x together. So the first one would be, hey, it's 1/2 plus, and then I'm going to pull that 1/2 in front, cosine of 4x. Okay. Technically, this and this are now like terms, but I'm going to try to rewrite my 1 a different way so I get a common denominator. So my common denominator would be 2. So I'm going to rewrite that as 2/2, and I'm being super lazy and just writing on the top of my 1. I probably should not teach you my bad habits, okay? But I'm being lazy and don't want to write another whole line of work just to do that. All right, so help me out. What's 2/2 plus 1/2? What's 2/2 plus 1/2, everybody? 2/2 plus 1/2. All right, Logan was in there quick today. Good job. Good job, everybody. Okay, so I'm saying 1/4 times 3/2 minus 2 cosine of 2x plus 1/2 cosine of 4x. Okay, answer number 1, perfectly good answer, right? Maybe they leave it greatest common factor out front. Okay. All right, I'm going to show you 2 different ways you can get another answer off of this. Okay, so they're both a little bit different. Okay. One way, what do you think? What is instinct kicking in and wanting you to do with that 1/4? So what is instinct wanting you to do with that 1/4, everybody? What do we think? Yeah, there's distribute. We want to distribute that thing, right? Okay, so if I distributed it, my answer would be 3/8 minus 2/4 cosine 2x. Let's see, 1/2 times 1/4 would be 1/8 cosine of 4x. What about this chunk here? Should I rewrite that in a different way? How should I rewrite that? All right. Awesome, 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 awesome. 1/2. Okay. So I've got 1/2. I'm just going to, again, I'm being lazy. I erased and I wrote 1/2. Okay. So again, another perfectly good answer. It's possible, though, they do something else crazy. So let me show you the crazy one now. Okay. So I may find a totally different color. So this is another way to do it. We have our good answers, but we want to make sure that we're prepared for everything. I'm going to rewrite this in halves. Okay. So this is the same thing as saying 1/4 times 3/2 minus 4/2 cosine 2x plus 1/2 cosine 4x. So do you see how we have halves? And this is a favorite trick of test writers, not necessarily Mrs. Ballard, but of test writers, like standardized test writers. They love to do this to you. They love to say, hey, let's put it all in halves. Now let's factor out a 1/2. So if I took a 1/2 out, I would have 3 minus 4 cosine 2x plus cosine 4x. So overall, my final answer would be 1/2 3 minus 4 cosine 2x plus cosine 4x. And look at that. It kind of looks cleaner than having the fractions. That's why they do that, because mathematicians like things to look pretty, right? But again, this is the third of a perfectly correct, 100% correct answer. I don't remember how WebAssign does it. I know I looked this morning, but I didn't look super careful. I'm like, okay, we'll be able to do that problem. So